So this is a little impromptu, but I really wanted to make this video after something popped up on my YouTube feed that I totally forgot about. So this video I want to speak about the game called Alisa. Alisa is a PS1 retro style design game that came out in 2020. I thought it was a very strong game. It's very fun. It really captures the PS1 era, and I just kind of want to give you a rundown of it, what I liked about it, what I don't like about it, in the hopes that if they do continue it, I see implementations and they really stick to what they got, because it's a very solid game. So I want to start out by reading the IMDb. The IMDb description of the game, so you kind of get an idea. Alisa is a horror-themed action-adventure game and a genuine throwback to the golden age of the 90s 3D games. Pretty simple and concise, but I couldn't say it any better myself. So this game initially came out on Steam in 2020. It came to consoles sometime later. I don't know if that was in 2021 or a little further. I found out about the game in mid to late 2023, and I thought it was brand new, or it was something that just went under the radar. So when I played it, I was like, oh man, how are people not playing this? And then I come to find out it's already had its run with the masses for the most part. So out the gate, when you start this game, you get a really cool intro of your main character Alisa shooting this puppet in the face, and it shatters and it hits the ground, cogs roll, and then you get the opening of, Alisa, press start and all that. The game has FMV videos, which is a really nice touch and obviously a nod to the PS1 era. The graphics look like it's perfectly out of the PS1 era. Things are blocky, and there's chopping, and there's buffer on the screen, and there's some dithering and stuff. It's really well put together, I guess, to say the least. So I'll cover the pros and then I'll hit the cons, because I'm already going into pro territory. The game is very concise and it understands what it's trying to be. The best game you can reference for this would be any game in this genre. You look at Resident Evil. Resident Evil had this tight system that you got your inventory, you got your initial characters that are of great importance. You got your Jill, your Spencer, your Chris, your Barry, and then everyone else. I didn't say Rebecca, but she's there, I guess. You have your titular characters. Obviously in Alisa, the focus is on two characters, not a variety of people. You have Alisa, and then you have her partner. I think his name was Pierre. He has a toothpick in his mouth, and that'll kind of go into play later. But so you have these characters, you have this very creative world. Your main character, she's dressed like Alice in Wonderland once you get to this crazy world, because that's where the game takes place for the most part. I mean, actually 100%, that's pretty much, well, except for the beginning, that's where most of it takes place. So you're in this crazy world. You're playing as this girl who was sent by their nation to get this guy who has blueprints to a devastating weapon or something along that line. But it's still got your traditional tank controls, which is to be expected of a PS1 game. Everything looks right. The backgrounds look great. The characters look great. Enemies and your main person. Environments are cool. There's 3 different segments of the game, I believe. I believe there's 3 main regions or areas that you go to within this layout. It might be a little more, but 3 is primarily what I remember the most. So the game, as far as I can tell, if I was to give this to someone to play and they're like, is this a PS1 game? Did this come out in 97? I mean, you could fall for it. It really falls in line with the PlayStation's and original lineup of games from back then. It's a very solid game. It's very fun, and it's definitely, it encourages you to play it again, because there's multiple endings, and I got all 4 endings because I liked it that much. Now, to kind of touch on the negatives of this game, I can only give it praise really, because it just does everything very well. But the biggest issues I will say is on your first playthrough, it's going to be a very difficult time. It's very unforgiving to new players, and it can be very daunting. And the reason for that is, with any game, when it's new, you don't know the characters in terms of the enemies. You don't know what all you can really do and what they can really do. So generally on a first playthrough, you're very safe about how you maneuver the landscape. And with that being said, you're going to get hit a lot, right? Well, with this game, everything is around the currency of these little cogs, these little wheels, which is a cool concept because I get that's what the game kind of overarching idea is. And I think that really hurts the game as much as it is a cool idea. Because on my first playthrough, I was playing it so safe and really trying to understand what's going on with the enemies. I took so much damage. Well, when I say everything needs these cogs, I mean everything. To get a new weapon, you need cogs. To get weapon ammo, you need cogs. To get upgrades on your character, you need cogs. To do modifications on your character, you need cogs. To save the game, you need cogs. Costumes, you need cogs. I think I already said that. But everything that is an option for you to adjust, you gotta spend currency. And I really do think that works against the game, because if it's your first time playing through it and you're not familiar with everything, that's gonna really make the game suck and be really difficult, because you're gonna take so much damage. You're gonna be spending so much money on ammo and health kits that you're not really gonna be able to explore the other options within the game. And there's not like there's cogs spread all throughout the world everywhere. 9 times out of 10, you're getting your cogs from killing the enemies, and they're not necessarily given a hefty amount either. And things are expensive in this game, which is kind of why you are going to end up playing it more than once once you really get into the rhythm of it and you enjoy it. So the cogs really hurt the game in that sense. I think it would have been a great benefit for them to have observed other games such as like Fear Effect, or of course Resident Evil, where yes, you have limited items. I get that plays into the survival aspect of it, but I would say for saving, I wouldn't do the cogs. I probably would do an ink ribbon type of system like Resident Evil did. And I would even say the same for maybe not costumes necessarily, but for gun ammo, maybe provide more of that on the enemy characters as well as kind of spread throughout the world. Obviously you don't need to, but making everything based around the cogs makes it very, very like scary on the first run, and not the kind of good scary either. It's more like just distressful and irritating. Obviously, as I played through it all the other times, now that I know what to expect, where it's at, and how it's going to play out, now I control when and where I'm using these cogs at. I know what battle's coming up next. I know what enemy's going to give me an issue, which one's not. So that is primarily the biggest beef I would have with this game, is just the currency system. It's being used on too many things. It's too dependent on that, and you got to diversify that a little bit, because that is really a hassle for new players. So that's kind of the main crux of the issue. So I know this issue I don't believe exists on Steam, but as long as this game has been available on consoles, you have to make the tank controls work on the D-pad. Currently, they only work on the analog stick, and let me tell you, using analog on a tank control game intended to play like a PlayStation 1 game, it's very difficult. It's not fun. It really pulls you out of it, because you have more issue with moving your character than you do with the game itself. That being said, you can adapt over time, but it is a real nuisance when it's like you have the D-pad, you have these buttons on the side, they don't do anything. It's not inventory, it's not options, it's not secondaries or anything like that. It's just unnecessary. It's almost like, how did you miss that? Or is it really that difficult to have coded that into the console version? I feel like that should be an easy add-in. So hopefully, whatever comes next, and I've heard that there's supposed to be DLC, which is, I'm down to play it because I really do love this game. But you gotta have the D-pad functionality there. Analog stick's not gonna cut it across the board. So please, I urge you, get that D-pad working. So outside of the currency and the D-pad, it's just positives for me. The costumes look great. The story is pretty cool. The way in which you interact with different boss fights and the different takes they have on it is really interesting, and I like that. You don't see that in many other games at all. Maybe Platinum games, that's probably the extent of that, and I'm not going to spoil what I'm referring to when I say that. I would encourage you to play the game, even with the two main negatives that I have. It's still a very solid game. I really do hope that they make something else from it. I'm not sure if this was a huge success when it came out or not. But man, Halloween's not that far away. It'd be cool if something else drops. But I would encourage anyone, if you haven't played it, it's available on PlayStation Store. The Switch, I don't know what Nintendo calls their store now. The eShop, I don't even know if they call it that anymore. But you can get it on Nintendo, the online. And then I'm pretty sure you can also get it on the Xbox store as well. I would strongly encourage, play it. You can play it with a friend. You guys kind of experience on the first run together. Play it in the dark with the lights off. Really get immersed into it. It's a really fun game, and it really is gonna take you back to like late 90s, early 90s. You're really gonna like it. It's a very solid game. And honestly, I know I've played through it to get all 4 endings, which I am pleased with the endings. I do really like the differences in them. I might play it again just to kind of get refreshed on it. The voice acting I thought was very cool. There's a very diverse cast. Not everyone is from the same region, which is nice. You don't get that from tons of games. Usually they stick in the same ballpark. But this one's kind of all over the map. Some of the voice acting is terrible, but it's damn if it's not good to listen to. And then some of it's great, and which is also still good to listen to. You're going to have areas you don't like. You'll have areas you love. It's a solid horror game for the PS1 aesthetic. I would definitely put it up there with Resident Evil and Parasite Eve. I wouldn't necessarily say Silent Hill because it's not kind of in the same world. Maybe. It's fun. It's a short, sweet game. I don't even know how many hours it is, but it's lengthy enough. If you get really good, you're probably gonna run through it within under 2 hours easily. But I truly do encourage people to play it. I'm happy that it popped up on my YouTube feed so that I could speak about it from my perspective. And damn, man, please make some more. I cannot wait. It's just a good time, man. It's just a good time. Check it out.